All right, guys, welcome to the MMA Fight Game podcast. We are here with the Dean, Vicious Victoria, training out of Hornell, New York. And she is a 2-1 kickboxing. She's fighting for the 135-pound title May 6th at the legendary Bill Grays Iceplex behind MCC, which is Monroe Community College. Victoria, thanks for joining us. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for having me. How are you?
Good, real good. So May 6th, you got a title fight. How long have you been practicing martial arts?
So officially, I'm just over my first year of training.
And you're already in a title fight.
Yeah, it's shocking to me as well, but I've definitely been putting in the work, and I come from a gym that definitely puts in the work. So coach has made sure I'm prepared.
Now, doing K1, do you have aspirations to do mixed martial arts, or are you just going to stay the K1 route?
Oh no, I am transitioning into MMA whenever my coach gives me that green light.
Okay. And how old are you?
I'm 24.
24. And then in MMA, what would you fight? Would you fight at 135 like you're fighting for the K1 title fight May 6th, or would you maybe drop down a little bit?
We're thinking either 135 or 125. So it all depends. I mean, right now I could drop to 125 for a fight for kickboxing if it was offered, but we've only had 135 offers.
Okay. And in as a female athlete, how difficult is the weight cut? Like if you do cut weight?
So my first time I was actually coming into a fight when I had just graduated the MBA program, and I had not weighed myself at all during college. It was never something I had ever focused on before, so I didn't really know what I was at. And my coach told me he signed me for a 135 fight. I didn't think I was going to be fighting yet because I had just started training in March. The fight was in June. So this was, right before I graduated in May, and he told me, and I was 155 pounds. So I had to do a 20-pound weight cut. There were definitely times where I was a little nervous, and I came to my coach. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to get down to 135. This is wild. And he just kept telling me, trust the process, trust the process. I will get you there, I promise. And he got me there. I was at weight and haven't missed weight. And now I walk around lower than 155, so I don't ever have to cut like that again. But yeah, my last fight, I did not have to do any cutting because it was a 140 fight and I was already walking around pretty close to that.
Awesome. And who's your head coach?
My head coach is Haas Coates. He's also the ISKA Team USA head coach.
Awesome. Awesome. And does does women issues, like sometimes we see these women fighters miss weight. Is it because of like the menstruation and the water retention? Have you experienced that? How is that like in the
So
weight cutting in the sport?
it can definitely play into that. Like if you are during menstruating, it can definitely help you retain a lot of water. So then it's really
Yeah.
hard to cut that water. And then if you're taking in any extra sodium during that time, it's going to be
Mhm.
even more challenging to get that out of your system.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm staying pretty much even in fight camp, out of fight camp, still a gallon of water a day, keeping my system used to that, and then always just maintaining my weight. So I'm never having to do those big cuts, just
Awesome.
because it does take a toll on your body, and I definitely don't want to put myself through that when I know I come in stronger when I don't have to do a giant weight cut.
Yeah, that's great. And how's your nutrition? Like how's your diet? Like in fight camp, what's your diet look like?
So I track protein, carbs, and fat.
Yep.
I keep all of my proteins over 150 grams a day, so I'm making sure that I'm getting in over my body weight in protein. And then I try to keep the carbs and fats as low as possible. I think one of my favorite meals that I make, it's like a chicken wing dip with Quest protein chips in it, and it has
Awesome.
like 60 grams of protein in it, and it only has like 7 grams of carbs. So it's a wonderful meal. But I've gotten this camp a lot more focused on keeping my nutrition just like a steady part of my life. So it's not just I'm only staying healthy for camp. I've been keeping my nutrition tracked since my last fight, and I've really just had a different mindset since my last fight.
Mhm. And how was your last fight? How did that go? Was that on a full contact promotions fight?
It was, and it was a split decision loss. So I was it was my very first loss, and It was definitely helped change me. My coach says the losses teach you more than the wins, and I 100% agree with him on that. It was a very close fight. I got to give it to Cece. She was a very game opponent, and she brought hers. I brought mine that night, but I just didn't bring quite enough. So it
Was that
happens to the best of us.
was that the one in March?
No, so I actually did not get matched for the March card. We were looking for a rematch with CC, and that was the main game plan going into March, but she was unable to come down for the weight class, so we couldn't make a rematch happen.
So is that the so that was in November, right?
Yeah, so November was the last card that I fought on.
Yeah, no, I'm just looking at your tapology under Victoria Cramp. I'm just looking at that. Your first fight was a KO. How good did that feel?
Oh, it was fantastic. I did not know what was happening at first because it was this, they separated us and I ran to a neutral, what I thought was a neutral corner, and then what was actually a neutral corner, and I just kind of stood there, and then I saw the ref throw his arms up and start waving. I was like, "Woo!" And
Yeah,
it,
let's
it
go.
happened so fast that I didn't have enough time to absorb what I was actually doing.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, you learn more, and like I was just talking to the matchmaker from Combat FC, who's got a big show. John Piersma from Synthesis is probably headlining that card, and he says, he has these athletes that come to him. They take like these tough fights. Like as an amateur, that record doesn't matter, but you get those experiences in the amateur ranks, and then you can go off in the pros and rattle off 7 wins. You're still so young that like your coach said, you definitely learn more from losses than you do wins, and you kind of figure things out. I mean, I follow you on Instagram and things like that, under Vicious Victoria, and I see you're putting in the work for sure, but just keep building and trust the process. Like your coach said, he's not definitely not steering in the wrong way for sure. So
Definitely not. No,
yeah.
he knows exactly what he's doing.
So you mentioned you have your MBA. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so I graduated the undergraduate program in May of 2020. I have an undergrad degree in marketing with minors in accounting and communication studies. I was a COVID senior, so I took a year off before I pursued my MBA. My parents own a restaurant, so I decided to stay home and work for them. And I still had an extra year of eligibility for college diving, so I decided to maintain that as well. So then I came back in the fall of 21 and graduated in May of 2022 with my master's. I
Mhm.
have a focus in business sustainability for my master's.
Now, is swimming? I know you said diving, but swimming is as a conditioning piece is amazing. Recently John Jones of the UFC, he just kind of highlighted that as he did that more maybe for less wear and tear on your joints. Is that part of your regimen as well for training?
Yes, it definitely is. And swimming has always been a huge part of my life. I mean, my mom said when I was a kid, she could never get me out of the water. And I think it was kind of funny how I ended up on swim team when I was in like fifth or sixth grade. And then I started varsity swim as a seventh grader. So I was only 12 years old. And it was very, very intense. Everybody told me not to eat before my first swim practice, and I thought that kind of sounds silly, but okay. And then my mom made me eat, and I ended up throwing up at my first practice. And my coach put a bucket at the end of my lane and said, "Here you go, keep swimming." And I was like, "Wow, this is what varsity athletics is like." And then I got underwater and just kept swimming.
Amen. I love it. So you have your MBA, and we were talking offline. You're an assistant dean at Alfred University. Tell me
Yep.
about that.
It's a wonderful job. I did not start in that role when I graduated the MBA program. My dean actually came to me about 2 months before my graduation, and he explained this brand new position to me. It was solely focused on recruiting and retention for the College of Business. I would be helping create new events for our students, create new competitions for our students, and then getting job and internship placements for our students.
Mhm.
And then when our old assistant dean was promoted back in, I think, November, was when he kind of gave me the little nudge and was like, well, you're going to fill in some of her work while she's, we're looking for somebody to replace her. Or if you want, you can be the assistant dean. And I just kind of like, I just graduated college. Some of the people I went to the MBA program with are still in the MBA program, and I would be their assistant dean. And then I sat back on it. I actually talked with my coach. We had a really long conversation about it, and he's like, "Why not just try it? The worst that can happen is you just asked to step back into your old position." And I stepped into it in November and haven't looked back since.
That's awesome. Now the big question is your boss going to come to your fight?
I wish. My boss he's definitely not going to come to the fight, but he is always so curious about what I'm doing in kickboxing, and he will always ask me when I come back how everything went, and any pictures or videos. And I have shadow boxes in my office with all of my reps and pictures from my fights.
Awesome, awesome. And have you gone into work with a any kind of training marks, injuries, black eyes, anything like that?
The only thing that I've gone in with would be bruises on my shins and my thighs, and I don't unless I wear a dress, they don't typically notice those, but I have seen students like look at my shins and just wonder why there are so many bruises on them, but they never ask. But they all know, so.
Yeah. What are the students' reactions to having a dean, or I know you mentioned you also teach a class, so you're a professor. What do they think about it?
Oh, they think it is the most random thing that I could be doing outside of work, especially because I have a diving background and really, I never trained any form of martial arts as a kid or anything like that, never did wrestling. I only really became interested in this when my college diving career was winding down, and it's now the best thing in my life. And it's always my fun fact in class or whenever I meet new students because I love seeing the look on their face when I'm like, and yeah, I do kickboxing and MMA, and they just go, like, do you just train it? And I was like, no, I've had 3 fights. And they're just like, you what? You fight?
And how did you like just roll into Vicious Elite? Like how did you like just get the courage or decide to make that change?
So right when it was ending, my mom actually owns a restaurant, like I said, and one of the waitresses is my coach's fiance. So we were talking about it, and I was telling her I was interested in it. So my mom and I tried a women's cardio class.
Okay.
And I was in the women's cardio class for one day before he invited me into the elites class. And I was like, well, what does that entail? And he's like, a lot harder workouts. You'll probably be here 3 hours at a time when you're here, but you're going to grow. You're going to get the opportunity to fight. You're going to get the opportunity to teach classes, and you can really make something out of this. I was like, oh, why not? That sounds super interesting. So I started training, and I was kind of thinking, I was like, yeah, it's March. I probably will have my first fight in maybe like September or October. That sounds like a reasonable time frame. And then he pitched the June fight to me. And I was like, why not? Sure.
Oh, I love it. Now, with your background in diving, has that conditioning like helped you in your fights? Have you noticed, all the years of training and things? Has that helped?
Yeah, I definitely do notice it. My balance is, I came in with a lot more balance than most people come in with, a lot more
Hmm.
spatial awareness.
Hmm.
And just when if you get spun around or something like that, a majority of what I was doing was just spinning the whole entire time anyways. So it's very easy for me to track where I am in a spatial realm. And I think that's given me a huge advantage. And then the balance thing it's key. My ankles and my knees are fantastic, specifically because the sport that I used to do was just constantly jumping, and making sure I was staying on that balanced point so I wasn't throwing myself out too far or staying too close to the board.
Yeah. What's your mother think of you fighting?
So my mom was the one who was against me wrestling as a child. And now that she can't really tell me no because I'm an adult, she's actually very supportive. I think she's my biggest fan. She goes to all of the fights. She has to bring 2 shirts because she says she adrenaline dumps when I fight. So she's got to change shirts in between because she gets just so sweaty. And I think the fact that she still does the women's class and that she's been in that for over a year now too, I think that gives her a better insight into what the art actually is rather than just, oh my gosh, my daughter's going into a cage to beat up another girl. Like, what is going on? She sees the art form behind it and she knows why I'm pursuing it. And my great grandfather was also a boxer. He passed away back in 2019. So it's something that I always wish that he could see. And I know that he can, but I'm glad that it's
Hmm.
something I can pursue now.
Are you fighting in honor of him?
Yeah, he's definitely my biggest reason why. He was the person that took care of my sister and I when my parents first bought the restaurant. There's, not a lot of time that you can invest into your family when you're having to invest almost 24/7 and all of your dollars into the business that you're trying to keep alive. So it was a huge blow to lose him. It happened, in the middle of my college diving career. I got the phone call the morning I had a meet that night, and my mom drove me up to that meet, and she's like, your poppy would want you to compete in this. And I was like, I know he would. I'm gonna compete. I'm gonna finish out the season. I'm gonna do it. And it actually ended up being the best season I had. I broke 4 records that season, and it was hard not having him there to witness it, but it was definitely all for him, and this is definitely all for him.
That's awesome. What's the name of your parents' restaurant?
It's called Billy Shoes,
What kind of
and
what
it's
kind of food they serve?
It's a typical diner, and it's been around since the 50s. So the original owner's name was Billy Shoe. So
Okay,
they just kept the name rolling ever since.
I gotcha. That's awesome. Good. What are your expectations for May 6th?
Definitely going in a lot stronger than I ever have. My training regimen has been extremely solid this camp. I've been putting in work in practice, outside of practice, 2-a-days, a lot of cardio, a lot of recovery. I think that's been the key point that's been changing this camp, is also focusing on recovery as much as I'm focusing on training. So whether it be yoga or hot Epsom salt baths, ice baths, anything of those sorts, I've been going through the entire regimen. The 2-a-days have been fantastic. I think waking up in the morning and actually going for a run or going for a workout has been like one of the highlights of this camp so far. And my coach just says he's seen such a huge change in my attitude and a change in my stature in general, that it's a big shift from 6 months ago.
That's awesome. I mean, with your background as a diver, obviously you have intelligence because of the position you're in, the college that you have. It seems like it's all rolling. With a win on May 6th, where do you go from there?
I fight the next best person.
And
I want to keep fighting better and better fighters so I can become that better fighter.
would that be K1, or do you think your coach may give you his blessing to go into the MMA realm?
I have a funny feeling that he's going to keep me in K1 for a little bit longer, but that's okay. That's okay. I like punching and kicking.
Yeah. And now do you roll, or do you do any wrestling or jujitsu training as well as training the other stuff? So you are training those disciplines. So when he does give you his blessing, you're good to go.
Oh yes. Oh yes. Definitely. I focus heavier on the kickboxing training, obviously, because I'm training for this title fight, but we still roll, we still do all of that groundwork, we still do takedown defense. I was actually in December, I was in Florida training with the Moncal brothers down in Florida. They are a fantastic BJJ school, and they have so much knowledge. Master Brian Fury is huge. Rashad Evans also helps out. So we've got a lot of big people helping us out.
Rashad Evans helps out where, down in Florida?
Down in Florida. Andy's been up to New York. We had him up here for a self-defense and wrestling clinic back in October. Our whole team got to meet him and hang out with him. We went through my story on the records and the diving and transitioning into this, and he goes, "You did flips off of that thing?" I was
Yeah.
like, "Yes, I did."
What section is Hornell for, like, high school sports?
High school sports, Hornell is Section 5.
So next time you see Rashad, because Rashad is section 6, he's from Niagara Falls.
Ah.
And so we met him somewhere, and he goes, "Where are you guys from?" And I think we said Rochester, New York, and he's like, "Section 5." I go, "Yeah, we always win."
He was right on our football turf. We have a picture with him, and it was I think right before Kevin went off to Worlds, one of my teammates, before he went to ISK Worlds, he came down and we presented him with his certificate and everything, and Rashad was right down on that Section 5 Hornell field with us.
Yeah, so you have to tell him, be like, section 5 is the dominant force, not section 6, to really give him some. Now, Kevin Hickson.
Yes, Kevin Hickson.
Oh yeah, because I'm going to be talking to him, I think, on Sunday, so I'm excited about that. So just to wrap this up, I have a few rapid fire questions. Are you a fan of the UFC
Oh yes.
and MMA in general?
Yes, definitely.
All right, so here we go. Who's the best striker in MMA?
Putin.
Who?
Alex Pereira.
Okay. Uh, who's the best grappler?
Oof. That one's a hard one because, we're a striking gym, so whenever it goes to the ground, we're kind of just like, oh, they're gonna keep it on the ground. But ugh, I don't have an answer for that one yet.
Okay.
I gotta
Now,
do a little more research.
so some breaking news for you since you said Pereira. At UFC 290 this summer, Robert Whitaker versus Drixus du Plessis is for the #1 title contender fight this summer. So that was just announced like literally right before we got on this call. So
That's awesome.
I'm breaking some news for you.
That's
Um,
awesome.
who's the funniest fighter in MMA?
Patty the Batty,
Now
or
you know.
Sean O'Malley.
Okay. Now you know I'm
He's
a big
goofy.
Jordan. Who do you think won the fight against Patty and Jared Gordon?
Sorry, Patty, but Jared Gordon.
Okay. All right, just making sure because I think we're gonna set some up with Jared after his fight this weekend.
That's
We're
awesome.
Yeah, we're gonna be talking to him. I think he's got a powerful story about like overcoming sobriety and panhandling for drugs and kind of really changing his life around. Because you're a female fighter, I'm gonna ask you this question. This is one of the questions I ask the boys, but since you females are badass and you guys always bring it, um, who's your favorite female fighter and why?
Meatball Molly, and specifically because those killer elbows, but she has that kind of like drive and grit that I have. I don't know,
Mhm.
she might not look like she's the most fit person in the world or anything like that, but she brings it, and when she brings it, she brings it.
Awesome. Um, who would you like to have dinner with?
Ooh. Hmm. Honestly, probably Molly as well. I've watched hers and Patty's videos and everything, and she just seems like she's a fun person to be around.
Okay. If you were in a street fight, who would you want by your side?
Street fight, Nate Diaz.
Okay. And who has the highest fight IQ?
Izzy.
Okay. Awesome. So you were fighting May 6th at the legendary Bill Grays Iceplex. I don't know if you've ever been there. You might see some of my posts about that's an OG facility, way in my opinion, way better for the fans, way better for the fighters. It's getting you guys to the next level. It's going to bring out the performances, like in the fact that you're in the first one, and that's really cool. And I've been following you along on Instagram under Vicious Victoria. I'm definitely excited to see you fight. I know that if people want to buy tickets to your fight, how do they do that?
So they can reach out to us. You can hit me up on my Instagram page. You can reach out to our coach, and he'll let you know which fighters still have tickets left. All of my VIP table seats are currently sold, but we do still have just general VIP and general admission tickets available. And there should be some VIP seats and general admission left at the start of the event, but I'd recommend getting them beforehand.
Awesome. And the sight lines, just so everybody knows, the sight lines at the Bill Grays Iceplex is going to be amazing for your guys' fights. I've been to that arena many times. I was there when it first opened. I was part of that, working at the ice rink and stuff. So I've been there. It's going to be an awesome venue for you athletes. So if you got other athletes in your gym, it's going to be an amazing experience. But we really do appreciate your time. Taking your time away. I know you got a football game you got to go do or something like that, right?
Yes, so the school, they are sponsoring a Powerpuff football game for the students, and at halftime, if you pay $4, you can throw a pie at your favorite coach. So that is what I volunteered for, was to have pies thrown at me tonight by college kids.
So you're not going to come up swinging or nothing, are you?
No, 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 no. They all know they're safe. I do use it as a joke sometimes, and I had a student in my office today who looks up at my shadow boxes and then he looks back at me and he goes, "Are you in the UFC?"
Uh,
Like, if I was in the UFC, do you think I would still be working here?
well, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe, but I
Yeah.
wouldn't want to.
Yeah, amen to that. But I appreciate your time. Good luck on May 6th. We're going to be there. I'm probably going to hit you up at weigh-ins. We're going to be there at weigh-ins. Get some sound bites from you there, and wish you nothing but the best of luck. Just sit tight for a second, okay?
No problem. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.